Ez Hashem, today's daf is Masechta Bava Basra daf Pei Beis. I want to just start just to review the Mishnah on daf Pei Aleph Amid Pei Aleph Amid Aleph. I just want to maybe call a picture up. Maybe you can see it here. All right. Let's see. Pei Aleph Pei Amid Beis. Okay, Pei Aleph. You just have to imagine what we're talking about over here. Okay. Yeah. Let's do it this way. Okay, here we go. Okay, this is very important to the Mishnah, so you got to see it. Somebody buys two trees in the middle of somebody else's field. So he bought two trees. The Tanakama holds that you don't own the land underneath the tree. What is the difference? If you don't own the land, that means after the tree dies, you have no right to replant the new tree in that space because you never bought the land. The mayor says Konakaka, he did buy the land. Higdilu, let's go back here to the Tanakama. Higdilu, let's say they grew and they grew and there's a lot of branches coming out of the tree. The seller, the owner of the field, lo yishapa, is not allowed to cut it off. Why not? The tree, he owns the land, right? But automatically he's giving an easement to the guy that he sold the tree, that if the tree branches go and block the shade of his field, and block the rain going down on his field or whatever, he has no right to cut those branches off the tree. That's a very important point, because automatically he gave an easement to the person he sold the trees. Then the Mishnah says, let's say branches that grow out of the trunk of the tree, shaloi, belong to the purchaser of the tree. Min hashrashim, but if it grows out of the roots of the tree, so then, shal balakarka, if you have anything growing out of the roots of the tree, it belongs to the owner of the field. The meso, if the tree dies, ain like karka, he doesn't own the land, so he can't replant the tree. Now, kona shloisha, if you bought 3 trees, kona karka, you bought the land. So he owns the land. I want to point out, you own
hours.
What?
Actually, to.
Okay, Kanakarka, you own the land, which means you own the land in between the trees, like over here in the picture. Plus, you own the land underneath the tree. Plus, we're going to learn that you own the land on the circumference of the tree, so that you're really allowed to pick from the tree. You're allowed to pick with your basket off the tree, as we're going to see in this picture over here. Okay, now. Egdilu, therefore, if it really overgrows, let's say it grew the tree, you own the land, but let's say the branches go really out into somebody else's fields, Yishapeh, the field guy, the owner of the field, can cut the tree off. Voilim and Ageza, anything coming out of the root, coming out of the trunk of the tree, obviously, I mean Ashrashim, even from the roots of the tree, Shalai, belong to the person who bought the trees, because he owns the land. Mesu, but if the tree dies, Yeshlai Karka, then he has a right to replant in the field. Okay, that was now we go to Daf Pei Beis Amud Aleph, and let us begin. Okay, Pei Beis Amud Aleph, and this is today's Daf. Now you understand the Mishnah. Heichidami min hageza v'heichidami min ashrashim. What is considered growing out of the trunk of the tree, and what is considered growing out of the roots. Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, Kol Shiraya Pnei Chama, if it's above ground, Zehel Menageza, that grows from the trunk of the tree. Okay, and therefore it belongs, the branches that grow from the trunk of the tree that's above ground belong to the owner of the tree. If it doesn't see the sunlight, in other words, it's below the ground, that is from the roots of the tree. And therefore, who owns that? Well, since if you bought only 2 trees, that means if you bought only 2 trees, that means you did not buy if you bought only 2 trees, you did not buy the land underneath. Therefore, it's, here's the picture I want to show you. If the branches that come out of the trunk of the tree belong to the owner of the tree. The branches that come out of the root of the tree belong to the owner of the field, because he sold only 1 or 2 trees, so he didn't really sell the land underneath. Now the Gemara is going to ask a funny question. I'm going to show you the picture so you can understand the question. The question is, Why do we allow the person who owns the tree to keep branches so low to the ground of the tree? What could be wrong? Well, what could happen is that if somehow dirt fills up the tree, like a bunch of, let's say there was a mudslide, and it fills up the from the trunk of the tree up until, let's say, a quarter of the tree, it looks like there's going to be 3 trees over here. And it looks like that really what's really a branch of the tree is 3 trees. And he'll tell everybody, what do you mean? I bought 3 trees. I also own the land. So it could lead to sheker. It could lead to lying of the purchase of the tree, claiming that he owns 3 trees over here and he owns the land. So why don't we require that any branch that coming out of the bottom of the tree should be cut off right away? That's the Gemara's question. V'leichosh, let us be concerned. Dilma maska arash sirton. Maybe the earth is going to be filled up with mud, right? And it's going to cover off the branches that are on the bottom of the tree by the trunk. V'amale, and the purchaser of the tree, who normally bought just 1 tree, right? So he doesn't own the land. He's going to say, Talasa zabantli. I bought 3 trees. Visle Ara, and I own the land because look, there's 3 trees over here, but really, secretly under the ground, it's really 1 tree with 2 branches coming out on each side. So why do we say he's allowed to keep it there? We should be required him to cut it down. Elo Rav Nachman explained, Yakoitz, it means he has to cut off those branches of the bottom of the tree. Hey, no, Rabbi Yochanan Yakoitz, if you have these, like you see right here in the picture, if you see branches coming out of the bottom of the tree, you have to cut it out because it could lead you to lie if somehow dirt fills up and you could lie. So you have to cut it down. That's the din. Hey, Omar Rav Nachman said a similar something. He said a cryptic statement, like he said he's sheer, and not every rabbi was good at explaining themselves. So Rav Nachman said, Naktinam, I say a halacha, a straight law, dekel ein legezel. If you have a palm tree, that means there is no branches coming out of the bottom of the trunk. What does that mean? Isn't it possible? What does that mean? That's all he said in the shiur, and nobody knew what he meant. What do you mean a palm tree has no branches coming out of the trunk? Maybe it does. So Sover Rav Zvid Lamema, Rav Zvid, and here's an important person, Rav Zvid, and he's going to explain his teacher's statement. Rav Zvid explained, Ein loy geza lebal dekel. That means if the branches come out of the tree, it does not belong to the owner of the tree. Again, he bought 1 tree. Anything growing out of the tree should be his. But if a branch comes out of the bottom of the tree, then it doesn't belong to the owner of the tree. Why? Since a tree is supposed to be uprooted, the palm trees die very quickly. I don't know, I didn't look it up online, but palm trees die very quickly. So it's expected to die. When he bought this palm tree, he doesn't have a lifespan of this palm tree of more than 1 or 2 years. So see, he's not even imagining that he's not even thinking about that the branches are going to come out of the tree, because it's not going to. He doesn't even think about it because he thinks the tree is going to die before branches come out of the bottom of the tree. So therefore, asuche masach daite, he forgets about it. The baladekel, the owner of the tree, he doesn't care about what's going to grow from the trunk of the tree because, like the Rashbam explains, he thinks that maybe the palm tree is going to dry up very fast, and nothing is going to come out of the tree. Now, what's the difference between a palm tree? A palm tree dies very quickly. Other trees, when they start to dry out on the top of the tree, the Rashbam explains, okay, but you can cut that part off so the rest of the tree can rejuvenate itself, so it has a longer lifespan. But once a palm tree starts to dry out, there's no way to rectify that situation. So you're going to anyway dig it up and uproot that tree. Says the Gemara, Maskif. So that's why Rav Zvid explained to his teacher, Rav Nachman, what he meant to say. Maskif lo Rapapa. So Rapapa asked the question, when you buy 2 trees, the Mishnah says, because the mechbel mishrish kaime, and eventually that tree is going to die, right? that tree is going to die. Every tree, even if you buy any tree, 2 trees, you don't own the land, right? Only if you buy 3 trees. But if you buy 2 trees, you don't own the land. So it's eventually going to be uprooted and destroyed, because when the tree dies, that's it. Vikutani, and our Mishnah says, Yesh Geza, that you do have you do have the branches coming out of the tree, because even, and our Mishnah implies not every tree is that way. The Mishnah doesn't differentiate between a palm tree, a decal tree, and any tree. And even though you're eventually going to destroy the tree when it dies, because you don't own the land, you still own the branches coming out of the tree. Rav Papa did not like Rav Zvid's explanation of Rav Nachman. Elamar Rav Papa. Rav Papa is going to explain what Rav Nachman meant. Even if a branch comes out of the tree, it doesn't belong to the owner of the tree. Lefish ein moitzi gezer. It's a beautiful explanation, because palm trees never, according to Rav Papa, never will give off a branch at the bottom of the trunk. It's very rare. It's 1 out of 100. So therefore, it's such a remote chance that this is going to happen. So it doesn't belong to the owner of the tree, because he never bought it. He never bought that. That 1 in 100 chance that it's going to grow out of the bottom of the tree, that we give it to the owner of the land. That's what he says. Ula Rav Zvid kashi masnisin. According to Rav Zvid, let's say Rav Zvid's explanation is that since Rav Zvid says normally a palm tree can grow branches out of the bottom of the tree, but since the palm tree is going to die, so therefore he doesn't think about it. But our Mishnah says by every tree you get the branches coming out of the tree. So how is Rav Zvid gonna answer the question on him from our Mishnah? Answers the Gemara, Masnisin dezabin lechamesh shnin. Our Mishnah is saying that he actually bought the tree for 5 years. In other words, our Mishnah could even be talking about a palm tree. And in our Mishnah's case, by a palm tree, you will have the branches coming out. What's our Mishnah discussing? You bought the right for that palm tree for 5 years. So even if the palm tree would die after 1 or 2 years, you have a right to replant the tree. So since you for sure own the spot for 5 years, when you purchased that tree, you had in mind to acquire, even if branches will grow out of the trunk of the tree, the purchaser of the tree had in mind that he's going to acquire those branches, and therefore he gets to keep those branches. But in a normal situation, when he bought a palm tree and didn't specify, then he's not thinking about the branches coming out of the tree, because he figures the palm tree is going to die before any branches come out of the tree. So he gives that up to the owner of the field. Okay, now we go to New Gemara. Kana Shloisha. We learned in the Mishnah. We learned this before, and I'm just bringing up the picture again. Where did we have this picture? Pei Aleph. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Pei Aleph. Here we go. You bought 3 trees right over here. What did the Mishnah say? The Mishnah says you own the land. You own the land in between. You'll own the land underneath the tree, and you own the land circumscribing the tree. Okay, and you could actually put a man there and his basket. That's what the Gemara is going to say. The comma, how much on the outer perimeter, on the circumference of the tree do you own? You own underneath the tree. What's in between the tree? The chutz lehen, and just beyond the tree. We go to Amud Beis. Oira v'salai, like the person that is cutting the tree, v'salai, and his basket. The person harvesting. So it's a little, let's say, a few feet beyond the tree. So the Gemaskef Rabbi Blaza asked the question, Hashta derech ein loy oir v'salai yesh loy. If a person buys 3 trees, we paskin like the Chachamim, that since he bought 3 trees in somebody else's property, he needs to buy an easement so he can get to his tree. So because the guy that's selling him the trees didn't give him, it wasn't included in the price of the trees. If you want a pathway to get to your trees, that's cost you extra. So therefore, how could you say that since he didn't even include a pathway to get to the trees? So certainly when he sold him the trees, the 3 trees, he probably didn't include space for the guy who's harvesting in the basket. Because we paskin like the Chachamim. How could you say he included this, in the picture over here, he included this, all these things around it? When a person sells 3 trees, according to the Chachamim, fine, you bought the land, but now you have to pay an extra money for a road to get to your trees. Because when a person sells, he doesn't include anything in the sale. So if he didn't include the road, which is more important than just having that few inches, so he certainly didn't include the perimeter around the tree into the price. So Amar Rab Zera will just open a quote over here, but has nothing to do with what we're saying so far. Rab Zera says, "Medivur Rabbeinu Nilmat." From Rab Lezer's question, we can learn shloisha hu de'ein lo derech. If you buy trees, the guy didn't sell you an easement. In other words, you have to buy another. You have to purchase a pathway to get to your trees. But if he sold you 2 trees, so you don't own the land underneath the trees, that everybody agrees, yeshloi. He included in the sale a way to get to his trees. The amale, because the guy says, my trees are in your land. When the purchaser bought the trees, he says, my trees are now in your land. You certainly have to let me use provide a path so I can get to those trees. But when you buy 3 trees, you actually own the land. So it's like a field within another field. So now you probably, and that's not included. You have to buy extra. You have to pay extra for a pathway to get to the trees. Okay, but that's Rav Zera's learning from Rav Loz's question. But anyway, Amalei Rav Nachman Rava. So Rav Nachman Rav Yitzchak said to Rava regarding Rav Loza, Lema. Let us say, Rab Lazar less lay to Shmuel the Rabbi. Rab Lazar does not hold like Shmuel's Rebbe. Because who do you think Rab Lazar is going according to his opinion? Rab Lazar's question is, we paskin like the Rabbanim. And therefore, he didn't include the pathway. He didn't include the Maloi Saleh V'Oira. Maloi Oira V'Saleh. He didn't include the guy to go around the perimeter of the tree. So Rab Lazar seemed to paskin like the Chachamim. Lema, maybe Rabbi Lazar does not hold of Shmuel's Rebbe. The Amar Shmuel said halacha ki Rabbi Akiva. The halacha is Rabbi Akiva that when a person sells, the Amar moicha ba'ayin yafal moicha. We had this machlekes before. Rabbi Akiva says that when a person sells, included in the sale is also the pathway. You don't have to pay extra for that. And that's what Shmuel said. And the halacha is like Rabbi Akiva. So according to Rabbi Akiva, he provided a pathway to get to the trees, and he also provided the man to go around the trees. But Rab Lazar said, but the halacha is kachamim. So it must be Rab Lazar does not hold of Rab Shmuel, his Rebbe, who paskin like Rabbi Akiva. Amalei. So Rava said, not that's it. Really, he could paskin. He liked his Rebbe, but the Mishnah itself, our Mishnah does not go like Rabbi Akiva. Our Mishnah cannot go like Rabbi Akiva. How do you know our Mishnah does not go like Rabbi Akiva? Midiktani, because our Mishnah says, Higdilu, you bought 3 trees, and let's say the trees, like I said, let's say the branches of the trees, grew so far, and it landed into somebody else's field, right? You own the field underneath the trees, but the field itself belongs to somebody else. So he can cut down those branches, right? Higdilu, if the Mishnah says, Higdilu Yishapeh, that's the owner of the field can cut down those branches. If you say our Mishnah goes according to Rabbi Kiva, Amar Yishapeh. What gives the right to the owner of the field to cut down the branches of somebody else's tree? Ha'amar, he said, when you're selling, you're actually selling with a good eye. In other words, he sold it with the understanding that even if the tree grow beyond its borders, he says you can have that too, even though it's disturbing my land. So our Mishnah does not go like Rabbi Akiva, because our Mishnah says you have a right to cut it down. So that's why he said our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Akiva. So Amalei, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak answered Rava, no, our Mishnah could go like Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva is not such a passive guy and saying you won't be able to cut it down. When was Rabbi Akiva very passive and say, okay, you can have it. If you bought a water pool in somebody else's property, you certainly have a right to the pathway to get to the water pool. That's included in the sale. Gabi ila mishamet lei. Would Rabbi Kiva say by a tree everything is automatically included in sale? Mi loy moide Rabbi Akiva beilin hanoitel sechsedei chaveiroi, a tree that is planted in his fellow's field, right? Shekoitus mloy madeim al gabe mechresha. A person who, let's say, a tree is planted in somebody else's field. Even Rabbi Kiva would agree you're allowed to cut something off somebody else's tree if it disturbs you, because now this disturbs him from plowing his field. So Ruvain owns the tree. Rabbi Kiva gives you a limited amount of that you can cut. So same thing our Mishnah also says. Our Mishnah could be Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Akiva holds you're allowed to cut. So it's not necessarily that our Mishnah goes according to the Rabban. So anyway, Rabbi Loz's question is not so difficult, because maybe our Mishnah could be according to Rabbi Akiva, and even though you're allowed to cut if the tree grows very beyond, if the tree grows beyond its borders, yes, the seller of the trees has a right to cut them down because they're disturbing his property. He can't plant underneath. However, but when he sold the trees, he sold, of course, the land underneath the trees, the land in between, but he also sold the right to circumvent the tree with the basket, because he also gave him he also gave him the road, the access to get to his trees. So Rabbi Akiva is like, that's what could be the author of a Mishnah. Tanya, Kavase, the Rabbi Chia bar Abba, we learned Rabbi Chia bar Abba, when you buy 3 trees, again, you bought the land that's underneath the trees. Ubeineim, you bought the land in between the trees, the chutzulan, and beyond the trees, and like the man who cuts the tree and his basket. So you have a certain right to go a little bit beyond your tree. Let's just conclude the Gemara with one more minute. The Gemara says, okay, now you just told me, okay, let's look at the picture, that he has a right. Of course, he owns the land underneath, but he also owns a little bit like around the tree to put his basket there, and he could cut the fruits. Okay, he owns the tree, right? Let's say he bought 3 trees, and he has this right. He has a right to harvest this tree, but could be the land, this piece of land, who has a right to plant there? Could be the owner of the field has a right to plant. He just gives him the right to harvest the tree during the season, but during the rest of the year, he can plant wheat in that area. That's the Gemara's question. Or maybe it totally belongs to the owner of the tree. What do you mean? That's the Gemara's question. The Gemara's question is, that place where the person harvests the tree and the basket, who can plant there? Amalei, Tunisia, we learned. We learned that that if you have one field into and an inner field, and in order to get to the inner field, you have to go through the outer field. The outer field has to provide a pathway for the inner guy to get to his field. But along the road, the outer guy has a right to plant in that area. So maybe I have a picture here. Imagine this is the way to get to the inner field. This is the inner field. You have to go through here. So then the guy who owns the outer field, he has a right to plant over here. So same thing over here. It's true that this guy can harvest the tree, but it really belongs to the owner of the field, and he has the right to plant it. That's what Rav Yosef said to Abaya. Amalei. So Abaya says back, midami. That's not similar. Hasam leisip seder lekeach. Avahacha isip seder lekeach. There's here there's going to cause a loss to the purchaser of the trees, because if you allow the guy of the field to plant over here, when he's going to harvest his field, he might drop some of the fruits onto the dirt and soil over here, and it's going to cause him a loss. Over here, walking through somebody's property to get to your property, it's just a walk through, and so therefore you're not really damaging the field. So there's no loss over here. But here, if you allow the owner of the field to plant wheat or whatever, he's topsoiling and putting he's putting fertilizer there. So when he's going to pluck his trees, he's going to actually make dirty his fruits. So we shouldn't allow anybody to plant there. And that's what the Gemara is going to say. The Gemara says, my fruits are going to come dirty. It's like the end of the Mishnah. There's sometimes when Bezdin decides what to do. If Bezdin says no, the path should not be in between in the outer, but off to the side, then not the inner one can pass there, and not the outer one can plant over there. This is like a free road. Nobody can plant there. And the same thing, same idea over here, that only nobody can plant there. Tanya kavasa debaya areza kona tachteim ubeineim v'chutz lehem. Again, when you buy 3 trees, you bought underneath the tree and between the trees and out of the trees, and in this area, nobody is allowed to plant. Again, right over here, this, even though the guy has a right to collect the fruits, but the owner of the field and the owner of the tree have no right to plant anything in that perimeter. Okay, we continue Be'ez Hashem tomorrow with this sugya. We'll finish it up.